For Japanese workers in big cities, a typical workday begins with something called sushizume. They are squeezed into a crowded train car and tightly packed, like grains of rice in sushi. The stress doesn't stop there. The country's notorious work culture means most people put in long hours at office, governed by strict rules and observation of hierarchies. Overwork is not uncommon, and the last train home on weekdays is almost as tightly packed. Going to the office at weekends is also common. How do they cope? Like everywhere else, COVID-19 is ushering in a new normal. A culture that places greater importance on face-to-face interactions is being forced, adapting to remote working, online learning, and social distancing. A challenge to the traditional expectations around building rapport and mutual trust. According to some reports, this economic and cultural disruption is prompting people to rethink what constitutes true happiness for them and what gets them out of bed in the morning. Some sociologists are pointing to the growing number of people who are more interested in quality of life than endless consumption, tourism, and eating out. Or, as some Japanese may call it, Ikigai. What does Ikigai mean? Ikigai is a word that has found its way into the self-help and lifestyle media of Europe and the USA. It is sometimes associated with a Venn diagram, with 4 overlapping sectors: what you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, and what you can get paid for. For most Japanese, however, the concept is slightly different. One's Ikigai may have nothing to do with income. Year on year, the number of survey respondents nominating work as their Ikigai has been decreasing. It is currently down to 32%, considerably lower than the number of people who nominated family or hobbies. This may not sound surprising until you consider that the unwritten code of the traditional salaryman was company first, family second. According to Japanese dictionaries, Ikigai means a source of meaning of life or life value, a source of inspiration that provides a reason to live, or the major source of pleasure or happiness in life, and so on. Ikigai may also be separated into short-term and long-term sources of happiness. For example, short-term sources could be a cup of coffee in the morning, sports, sewing, cooking, children's clothes, or chatting with friends. Long-term, Ikigai is closer to someone's true purpose in life, or what they truly want to accomplish. Why does Ikigai have various meanings in Japan? Let's see. In a research paper titled The Concept of Ikigai, Nobuhiko Kanda, a professor at Bunkyo University, suggests that its meaning shifts according to the context in which it is used. In Japanese, the word is composed of two parts, iki, which means life, and gai, which describes value or worth. The origin of Ikigai goes back to the Heian era, AD 794 to 1185. Gai comes from the word kai, seashell in Japanese, which were highly prized. Even today, kai still exists in verbal form in Japan. For example, kai ga aru means to be worthwhile. Actually, kai seems to have been common use much earlier than gai. Kai appears in The Tale of the Bamboo Cutter, which is considered the oldest Japanese prose narrative. In this text, kai ari means happy feelings that accompanies positive results or a good experience. Kai nashi is a negative form of kai ari, which means disappointment following unexpectedly bad results. Gai is a component part of the adjective yarigai or hatarakigai, which means worth doing or worth working for. Professor Kanda explains, these gai mean positive feelings, the joy or satisfaction. So, the original meaning of Ikigai is a positive outcome of effort. There is another predecessor of the word Ikigai that appears in classical Japanese literature of the Heian era. The Pillow Book and the Tale of Genji, for example. Ikerukai has almost the same meaning as Ikigai. The original form of ikeru in ancient Japanese is iku, and ikeru and iki are both just different grammatical forms of iku. So, in the late 10th century, ikerukai is understood as it's good to live, good things are expected in life, or there is a joy. In the Kamakura era, 1185 to 1333, the meaning of ikerukai was colored by social or specific community agendas. Tsurezure-gusa, widely considered a gem of medieval Japanese literature, written in 1331. In this book, ikerukai is used with negative form nashi. Ikerukai nashi means not worth living for, or no point in living. Yoshida Kenko, the author of this book, suggests one can live well by being a good member of the society. For ambitious samurai at the time, this provided a clear contrast with shinigai, which means worth dying for, considering it's shameful to survive a lost battle. They used kai, naki, inochi to mean a life of no value or hope. For this reason, many academics conclude that the medieval understanding of Ikigai was institutionalized and governed by social convention. In 1549, the Jesuit leader Francisco Xavier arrived in Kagoshima. His efforts to spread Catholicism would soon draw alarm from the shogunate, Japan's ruling military dictatorship, who saw it as a threat to their grip on power. Ikigai appears in a dictionary published for Jesuit missionaries around 1603. This suggests Ikigai was a common word amongst ordinary people in this era. The dictionary defines Ikigai as the meaning of life, the joy of living, and life hope. However, in the Meiji era, 1868 to 1912, Ikigai were out of common use. The Japanese dictionaries around the time show only one meaning, which is the results of living. Since the arrival of Commodore Perry in 1853, the Japanese government had pushed Risshin Shussei, meaning metropolitan success, and Chukun Aikoku, meaning loyalty to the nation, an effort to catch up with the industrial and military power of the West. The sons of wealthy families were educated in the importance of loyalty to the newly restored emperor. Success as a minister, doctor, or general demonstrated commitment to national aspirations. Selflessness and patience were prized. The sons, who migrated to urban centers and entered the professions, were praised as exemplary representatives of their villages and a credit to their families. As a result, society became more competitive without fully shaking off feudalism, and a small village mindset being imported into urban centers. Ikigai appears in more than 30 novels before the end of the Second World War. In Futabatei Shimei's 1887 novel, The Drifting Cloud, the protagonist says, "There can be no Ikigai if I can't get in the right school." The main character in the five-storied pagoda, written by Koda Rohan, says, "I feel Ikigai by being a carpenter, but the world has completely changed, so I have no longer have Ikigai." The meaning of Ikigai is broadly the same. What makes life worth living for? But as we can see, shifting social contexts and agendas change the nuance. There is only one novel in which Ikigai is used within the context of an explicit social agenda. It appears in 8th December by Osamu Dazai, a story about the attack on Pearl Harbor that triggered Americans' entry into the Second World War. In this novel, a woman who has heard of this news says, "I feel Ikigai to be born in such an era." This Ikigai expresses her sense of fulfillment at being alive during an era of nationalist aggression. After the end of the Second World War, the meaning of Ikigai expanded further. As Japan rebuilt and the economy made a miraculous recovery, ushering in a long period of optimism, Once again, Ikigai came to mean a source of happiness, a source of encouragement, a source of emotional support, an aim for living, etc. In 1968, Japan recorded the second largest GDP among liberal market economies. Despite increasing wealth, many employees felt a distinct loss of purpose. By necessity, productivity and efficiency dominated the workplace agenda. Employees' health and impacts on the environment were largely ignored. The push for greater democracy, initiated by the US occupation, came to an abrupt halt with the outbreak of the Korean War. Fears about the spread of communism in Asia prompted the US to crush trade unions and welcome a return to nationalist governments. With this came widening income disparity, exacerbated by a post-war baby boom that further intensified social competition. Psychiatrist Mieko Kamiya's 1966 book, About Life, sparked renewed discussion about the true meaning of Ikigai. Kamiya explored quality of life issues for those with severe mental and physical disabilities. She connected Ikigai to the desire for a better future or hope for progress. She suggests that Ikigai can imply looking forward to the future, even if the present moment is thoroughly miserable. If the reason why you get out of bed in the morning, the thing you work towards. She said, there are lots of people who lie frozen in bed every morning, crippled with anxiety, fear, or depression. They can't avoid asking themselves, why do I live in this state? For what? She suggests that Ikigai requires aligning your obligations with what you most want to do in life. In other words, living with a sense of mission, which could be politics, religion, social protest, or even work. In the current, post-bubble era of economic contraction, Ikigai can often be used in place of saying, my hobby. An overworked husband heading off to enjoy his hobby is more likely to be asked to fix a broken tap than a husband heading off to pursue the meaning of life. Respect for people who are passionate about their interests is growing. Even otaku, the slang equivalent of geek or nerd, have acquired a more positive reputation for their obsessive commitment to pop culture. At one extreme, Ikigai can mean life purpose. At the other, a bag of sweets or a dip in a hot spring. But as Kamiya suggested, all too often, both are largely a faint hope for the future, a long-standing form of deferred gratification. If life is a journey of self-discovery, Ikigai can certainly be thought of as a compass that points you in the right direction. However, at no point in history, through all its subtle shifts in nuance and politically motivated exploitation, has Ikigai been a lifestyle theory with Venn diagrams? We have, Another word for that in Japanese. Bullshit.